Welcome to the Seraphine podcast. This is part 2 of my conversation with Tom Beaver, an old friend of mine who I just talked to for hours and hours, and we decided to kind of bring our sometimes oddball conversations into the forefront. But I love
We're trying to figure out the world.
We're
trying to figure out what's going on.
We are trying to get our shit together. So come into the discussion and take a listen. And please, if you have any comments or thoughts, please drop them below. We're going to jump right into. It's not really the battle of the sexes. I think it's a redefining of the sexes. And according to, I think, a lot of what I would say Gen Zers is they think even sexual identity is really not even worth it anymore. Like you just need to be a person. Female, male is not existent.
Not wanting to be identified as either a man or a woman. I can't. Honestly, it's very hard for me to wrap my mind around it, but I do think from a humanitarian point of view, or whatever you want to call it, people can do whatever they want.
Yeah. If
you don't want to be identified as a man or a woman, why would I look at you and be like, no, I don't think so. I don't think that's a good idea. You can't do that. Yeah. People can do whatever they want. But the actual idea of it, I can't wrap my mind around it. It's a little confusing.
Yeah.
I've tried to make some, not assumptions, but try to figure out where it's coming from, because it seems to be a fairly new thing. Maybe it's happened before in ancient Egypt or something, but it's fairly new in terms of like our modernity. And it's almost like an annihilation of identity as a result of not wanting to be identified with any kind of sect. Not sex, but any
sect. Yeah, SECT.
I don't want to be a man. I don't want to be a woman. I don't want you to identify me as anything except a human being that is fairly disgruntled and fairly discouraged with the way with the landscape of modernity. It's a very, very strange time to be alive. How am I going to express it? I don't want to be a man. I don't want to be a woman. Mm-hmm. I'm just a human being who's trying to figure out what's going on. Mm-hmm. I actually think I don't want to sound like, never in a million years would I assume that I know what goes through someone's mind, another person. And as I said, whatever you want to do, I support it 100%. It's your life. You do what you want. But from my point of view, I'm always trying to figure out, where is this psychological thing coming from? Because it is very strange. It is strange to say, I'm a man, I have male attributes, but I don't want to be identified as a man. Yeah. I feel like a woman. I would like to have surgery where I am made more womanly. Fair enough, that's been going on for a long time, and vice versa. Mm-hmm. But it seems like things are sort of getting convoluted and mashed up. And it almost feels like it's about not wanting to assume any identity, and therefore not wanting to be involved in any of the chaos that is modern life and society. And how crazy things have been lately. Pandemic, global warming, climate change, shifting ideologies, people changing their minds about old paradigms, like all these things that are happening in 2021 that have probably happened a million times in history, but we're experiencing it in real time. And you've got generations that pop out of the womb with a cell phone in their hand. So they're viewing everything through the prism of technology. Therefore, you don't have to look around and see that the world's on fire and everything's getting a little crazy. So you look through the technology and you're getting like all of your input from that. And when you're interacting with the real world, I think there's a certain degree of, I'm not interested. I want to keep my distance from it. And while I'm keeping my distance from it, how dare you refer to me as a man? I don't feel like a man. How dare you refer to me as a woman? I don't really feel like a woman.
It's, I think what's hard.
I feel like that was pretty abstract. But
yeah, but no, you're definitely fleshing out what I think is. And again, to be clear, I mean, we're both in our 40s. to those listeners. So we're in that.
They're all like, we could tell.
Right? Well, we're in the
You sound like one of those Gen Xers.
It's completely, it's an identity crisis. And I think...
which every generation has.
And it's the kind of identity crisis to where there's not even the basic identity, which is male, female. You know, I lately I've been confronted with emotion in my body when it comes to these conversations, because I watched Promising Young Woman, and that's the movie with Carey Mulligan, and it was literally like, when you want to talk about like an emotional trigger, the movie really gutted me, because it brought me to a place of, when I was in my 20s and even some of my 30s, I was put in positions to where I didn't understand that I was being put in positions to where it just wasn't okay. And I didn't know, I kind of shrugged it off. And, you know, you're always told, you're asking for it. You know, my age was always like, you know, you dress a certain way, you know, you're being provocative. You know, you put yourself in a situation where if it's sexual and, you know, you don't consent, but you're out of your clothes, well, then you know what? Too bad. A lot of questioning on undoubting myself. And then now in my 40s, you know, I remember getting kind of emotional on the phone with you and almost like thanking you for being a decent human being. And I guess I look at it like that element of, you know, men and women not having, you know, I'm a man, you must obey me.
Yeah.
You know, that part I want out. I don't want to feel scared by men. I don't like feeling that way. And I still have the fear in me, and it's natural because men are usually bigger than you, and you know they can hurt you. I mean, the movie with Carey Mulligan, there is a scene where she does try to fight the guy, and guess what?
Well,
you know, she loses. And it's that kind of conversation topic to me. I can really get into the meats and potatoes of talking about, you know, why it's so important that women's words, women's actions need to be equal to men, and that, you know, we can't keep telling our women, you know, well, you're asking for it if you're blah, 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 and teaching our boys like, well, she's sending you mixed signals.
Well, that's, yeah, I mean, that's...
And we're getting there. I mean, obviously we're getting there. Harvey Weinstein is no longer, but it's still something that even now I will watch happen, you know, out and about with friends. And again, it's not just Generation X. I think it just kind of depends on who has brought you up and who is really applying this thinking of what is right and what is wrong with sex and relationships. The other thing that I found really mind-blowing is just how, you know, talking to younger generations about their perception of sex, and how many of them really don't. They're really keeping it apart from relationships, that it's something that you do, but it doesn't necessarily define.
You mean the act of sex? Or
yes.
The identity, sexual
the act
identity?
Of sex, sorry.
They're keeping the act of sex separate from the relationship?
Yes. And that they have a better hold on the friendship versus the sexual relationship.
You know, it's funny, when I hear that, all I think is, we're animals burdened with brains, and sometimes everything just comes down to some kind of power struggle.
Uh-huh.
I don't want you to be calling the shots. I don't want to call the shots. Well, there's two of us in the room. You're a man, I'm a woman. Who's going to call the shots? Mm-hmm. Somebody's going to have to take the wheel. Well, now it's your turn to take the wheel. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
When you're in a relationship and you say, I want to keep sex separate from it, I don't know, that kind of part of that doesn't compute for some reason with me.
It doesn't compute with me either. And in some ways I have a lot of it's not admiration. It's like I'm in awe when I have conversations
with young people who are
doing
this?
very, very much.
Are they articulate about why they're doing it? I'm just curious.
Because,
or is it just?
Well, to a point. And the other thing that's so interesting about a lot of the Generation Z group is that they're very good about putting their words into a keyboard form.
Right.
But when they have to articulate it in a conversation, it kind of misses the boat, or it doesn't get communicated.
Sure.
And it becomes a hashtag one sentence of, like body positivity, I am what I am, if I weigh a certain amount, I can be naked and wear, this outfit, and I should be just as, held up in high regard as a woman who is, 110 pounds.
Right.
And I mean, I like a lot of the ideology behind it. It's just when it becomes something that is just what do you want to say? A tagline, a hashtag, a chant. To me, I always want to know the why and the emotion behind it.
Me too. Yeah, absolutely. Because if you're just purporting your own idea of a persona, it gets weird.
It does.
The social landscape right now is so conducive to that. You can very easily put out your idea of yourself to the world, and through technology, everybody knows that's not really your persona, but it's somehow generally accepted that, this persona, because it's put out over social media, well, that's as good as I can get. And so I'll just accept that.
100%.
That's what you are. That's what I am.
And I think we can both, maybe I'm wrong.
It wasn't like that when we were younger.
We weren't. And the thing is, I don't think you haven't. I've never done online dating. I've never done apps or anything like that.
I don't want to make
anyone
feel bad.
No offense to anyone who's done it. But
definitely not my thing. I could never do it.
It's just so, when I'm hearing my friends my age or a little younger in their late 30s talk about the experience.
A lot of people do it.
It is.
And it's not a generational thing. I don't think a lot of generations do it, online dating. It's hard to meet people.
Yes.
Everyone's isolated. They're on computers and they're playing with their phones and they're in their homes.
We have pandemics
and the pandemic certainly. I'm
yeah.
sure all those websites, whatever they're called, was OK Cupid. And all that stuff, I'm sure they were booming during the pandemic. It only makes sense, but I'm kind of old-fashioned. I'm like, if you're single and you want to meet someone, I don't know where you go, but you need to meet them. you need to go out and do the work, and do the game and do the ritual and meet them face to face. Probably because that's the way I did it when I was younger,
Well, and
this could come back to what you were talking about earlier with the roofing and the raping, which is insane.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous. But when you were talking, obviously, but when you were talking about that, I just kept thinking about how it comes down to estrogen and testosterone.
Mm-hmm.
These are things that people don't really think about, but they have to be navigated. I'm very different because I have this thing raging through me called testosterone. Mm-hmm. You're a little different because you have this thing raging through you called estrogen. Those things do cause an impetus in people that makes them navigate each other in a way that only, you can't change it.
Yeah.
That's the way you navigate each other because of those chemicals that are in your system, man and a woman. Mm-hmm. I don't know where I'm going with this, but I thought I was going somewhere.
I get what you're saying. I think where my head is going, especially now with my hormones, is I don't think I have ever really harnessed rage until this year.
Yeah.
And I think I harnessed rage.
It's a scary thing to do.
It's a very scary thing to do. And I mean, it's the kind of rage that is it's almost like physically all my body wants to do is scream, and I want to throw punches. And I've always been somebody who has
is it called animus? Is that what they call it? Animus? The destruction,
yeah,
like the warlike nature inside of you?
And it's hilarious because my
Out of
therapist,
frustration?
my therapist is like, harness your rage. And she's like, it's okay to bring it to the surface.
Tell you to get a punching bag,
right?
To put up in your...
But it's wild. And I guess what's so interesting is that I see a lot of people who, especially online personas, mimic what rage is and mimic what sexuality is, and it doesn't, I don't feel anything. I'm like, well, are you feeling the emotion? No. Or are we so starved for human one-on-one face-to-face connection that all we know is the emoji of the feeling? And now we have a lot of great mimics for emotion, but to actually feel it, I mean, it takes work to feel certain emotions. It took me 40 plus years to feel rage. So to me, I don't know. I guess I'm in a place now to where my mind has been open to a lot of different things. I'm trying to process things that I thought were true, and now I've realized they aren't true.
A lot of people are doing that, yeah, in the culture.
And then just seeing in the news, we have Britney Spears, who is under this conservatorship still, and then Bill Cosby. I mean, she's denied freedom because why? Her mental health suffered, and there was a few instances of the endangerment of her children, and I completely understand saying to someone, okay, it's time to get your head together. We need to take you to a place to be well and focus on yourself, and until you get healthy, you'll have visitation with your kids under supervision. I understand that, but it has been a long time, and to keep someone away from their children, and then on top of it, insert an IUD in your body to say you don't get to procreate because you're just mentally too Looney Tunes. It blows my mind that this woman who has done concert after concert, knows choreography, knows these songs, she is in and out a business person, that they're denying her now her own freedom to be on her own, to spend her money, to get married, to have a baby. But we have Bill Cosby, who is just, I mean, they're letting this man go because why? Oh, poor old Bill. He's just not built for prison. I mean, I don't know.
I think it's what's happening to Britney Spears is terrible. And I think Bill Cosby should still be rotting in jail. But I do think it's interesting how media sort of exploits these things for dollars and cents, and it keeps everybody distracted. It's like there's very, very important things going on in the world, but it's like everyone's always talking about these. When it's celebrities going through these things, it obviously just holds a lot of weight. It's like you were talking about the Harvey Weinstein thing. There's a bajillion guys in this world that exploit their power. Harvey Weinstein was the big thing so it awakens everybody. So I guess it's important to have these celebrities who are in the public eye who sort of make everybody wake up and pay attention to this, because it's going on at lower levels everywhere.
100%.
What's happening to Britney Spears is happening to other people.
But I guess
But they're not Britney Spears.
And that's the thing is that she's Britney Spears. This woman is an iconic pop star who has much more money than a lot of people. Mm-hmm. And then you have, and again, it's understandable to where, you have people who are in these situations that it'll never come up, because at the end of the day, they don't have the money, or they don't have the power, or people just don't care. But I guess for someone like her, because she is such an emotional trigger point for so many people, whether you listen to her songs or you've felt some tingles in your body when you watched her writhe in her videos.
When she said, "Oops, I did it again,"
or you watched her being, bashed by Diane Sawyer. About having, sex with,
I didn't see that.
It was awful.
Thankfully, I don't want to see Diane Sawyer bashing anyone.
Me neither. I mean, I've always liked Diane Sawyer, but watching that woman on woman just like slut shaming, and it sucks because I have been there to where my elder women who have put me in a position of, close your legs, don't wear so much makeup. And it's hard to watch, and I guess to watch this play out the way it has, as women, we need to watch this play out in this woman's favor. She is not a girl. She is somebody who is fighting for her freedom.
I don't know if that's but is that really I don't know if that's a male-female issue. I mean, a patriarch daughter issue. That's a problem with the legal system, right? I mean, I don't know all about a conservatorship? I don't know the ins and outs of that, but why is that law in place? I don't know anything about that law, but how is it that somebody could do that?
And I think that's another thing that needs to be changed. I think that, with mental health being such...
She was found to be mentally ill.
Yes.
And her dad got... Okay,
a 5150.
Sorry, I'm not a Britney Spears scholar,
and the only reason, again, why I'm kind of on this train right now...
well, it's all over the media right now.
It's tough because the father-daughter relationship, it's tough to watch because, you see, I don't know much about her father, but what I have just seen that they have shown.
Sounds like a dick.
Yeah, and he sounds super controlling, and it does become a male-female thing when it's you're a crazy female, pat you on the head.
Sure.
And I
remember when she shaved her head and all that.
And I think that's the thing that drives me crazy. I wish the word crazy meant the same for men as it does for women.
That comes back to the testosterone estrogen thing.
It drives I'm
not saying it's right, but I'm saying
into my rage.
Right. Yeah, and the Cosby thing is just insane too, because it's like, how many women was it? Do you know?
My gosh!
How many women was he accused of? I
feel like it was drugging? Like 17 were testifying. I don't remember the details. It was a lot.
Yeah, he had been doing it for like his entire career supposedly.
And it was undeniable.
Yeah, but there's something else I would very much like to talk about with you, and that is like this idea of separating the artist from the person.
Ooh, that's our next topic.
So God.
we're gonna put a pin in this one. I hope you enjoyed this. For all my lady listeners, please talk to me about this one. I need to hear what your opinions are. Men, if you use the word crazy in those comments, I'm going to use my rage button.
Look out, she's accessed her rage.
I've accessed my rage. I love it. Please click like, subscribe if you liked what you heard. And even if you don't like what you heard, let me know your thoughts. Thanks so much for watching the Seraphine podcast.